For the first time on the channel, we're diving into the Spider-Man universe, and what a better way to do it than with a Spider-Man film where there's a whole bunch of them. As today at the Channel Points the Quest of Blade, we're going to look at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, released in 2018. The first animated film in the Spider-Man movie franchise, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse centers around Miles Morales, an alternate Spider-Man character created in 2011. After his roles in the comics and having a place in the Ultimate Spider-Man on Disney XD, this was the first media to feature Miles Morales as the main star. And in this film, Miles Morales obviously becomes Spider-Man and gains the help of a whole bunch of other Spider people. Why? Well, that's because Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, has opened up multiple different dimensions which have brought in multiple different Spider people, and they all have to get themselves back home, as well as sealing up the dimensions before Fisk can merge them all. This film had a pretty all-star voice cast as well, including Shameik Moore, Jake Johnson, Haley Steinfeld, Lily Tomlin, Zoe Kravitz, John Mulaney, Nicolas Cage, Lev Schreiber, and Chris Pine. And on a budget of $90 million, this was a massive success at the box office, making back a little over $384 million. This film also exploded the popularity of the Miles Morales character, leading him to be featured in much other media, including his own spin-off video game. This film is also due 2 sequels, one to be released in June of this year, and the other to be released in March of next year. But before those come out, we gotta recap what happened in this one. That's what we're gonna do right now as we look at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, released in 2018. So we begin our film by meeting Peter Parker, the one and only Spider-Man, and noticeably a lot of his backstory seems to mirror the backstory from the Spider-Man of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. We then meet Miles Morales, a mixed-race African-American and Puerto Rican teenager. His dad is a cop named Jefferson Davis and takes Miles to his new private school, which he got into by winning a raffle. Miles is having problems fitting in at the new school as he doesn't know anybody, but he does meet a fellow new student named Gwanda. While he doesn't get along with his dad, he does have a good relationship with his uncle named Aaron, who also doesn't get along with his dad. Aaron takes Miles underneath a subway where they work on some spray paint, while Miles is being stalked by some sort of glitchy spider. And after they finish the spray paint job, Miles takes a picture and then he's bit on the hand by said spider. And he immediately notices some changes the next day. All his senses are on override, and he kinda blows it with Gwanda by sticking to her hair. His hands are sticking to a lot of things, including these pigeons, and after he sticks his way back into his dorm room, he notices through some comics that he's got a similar beginning story to Spider-Man. He then goes back under the subway to find the spider, and surely it's just a normal spider. Oh, nope, it's definitely not. Well, I guess you're Spider-Man 2 now, but where's Spider-Man 1? Oh hey, there he is, fighting a giant green goblin. Miles accidentally gets mixed up in the battle and almost gets killed before Spider-Man saves him. They immediately connect for their spider sense, and Spider-Man promises to train him after he gets done with Green Goblin. Although he can't quite beat the Goblin after he's subdued by a different villain called the Prowler. Both Goblin and Prowler work for Kingpin, who is trying to use this giant device he just activated to open another dimension to get his family back. While the device is going off, Goblin accidentally dangles Spider-Man into the pulse of the beam, which seems to activate something, and we get flashes of multiple different Spider people. Everything gets blown up, and in the aftermath, Spider-Man is pretty banged up. He gives Miles, who has come to his side, a device that he can use to destroy the machine once and for all. And after Miles hides, Kingpin confronts Spider-Man, and Spider-Man tells him that this won't work to get his family back. And in anger at this statement, Kingpin kills Peter Parker. Miles then gets spotted by the Prowler and chased by him throughout the city before he escapes and takes refuge at his house. The news then reaches everyone in New York City that Spider-Man is dead and his true identity was 26-year-old Peter Parker. After buying a Spider-Man costume and attending Peter's public funeral, Miles decides to look for the comics of Peter's backstory to see what he needs to do. He starts by trying to jump off a building, which doesn't go well, and he accidentally breaks the doohickey that's supposed to destroy the machine. He then goes to Peter's grave to apologize, but he's confronted by another Peter who he accidentally knocks out using a shock blast. He didn't even know he could do a shock blast, but no time for that now as him and the unconscious Peter, who has accidentally shot a web, have to escape the police. The other Peter is revealed to be Peter B. Parker, who's been Spider-Man in his dimension for 22 years. Things have not gone well for him in his dimension recently, as he did not want kids with Mary Jane Watson, so they got divorced, and he got fat and depressed. He also takes the doohickey from Miles and promises just to send himself back to his dimension himself, but Miles really wants Peter to train him. Peter refuses, but after Miles hits him with some guilt pouting, Peter agrees. After figuring out the doohickey is broken, Peter realizes they need to go to Fisk's research lab to get a new one. They break into the office of Fisk's lead scientist, where they discover that Miles can somehow turn himself invisible. Miles tries to hack the computer while Peter distracts the scientist, who seems to immediately somehow know that he's another Peter Parker from another dimension. She also tells him that his body structure is deteriorating, and if he's in this dimension for too long, he's gonna die. How does she know all this? Well, because her name is Dr. Olivia Octavius, and she created the device. Miles then grabs the computer tower and him and Peter book it out of the facility, with Octavius chasing after them. Peter teaches Miles to swing on the fly, but they're caught by Octavius, but don't worry, another spider person is here to save the day. I say person because it's actually Gwanda. No, her real name's actually Gwen Stacy, and she's been Spider-Woman in her universe for about 2 years after her best friend Peter Parker died. But how did Miles meet her before the device went off? Well, because when she got sent to Miles' dimension, she was sent 1 week in the past. They all escape with the computer, and then we get Kingpin's backstory. Basically, his family saw him beating up Spider-Man, so they ran away in fear, drove away in fear, and got into a car accident and died. The Spider People decide the only place they can go to is the house of May Parker, who actually saw them coming. She takes them to the other Peter's underground spider cave, and the reason she saw them coming is because more Spider People had already arrived. That includes Spider-Man Noir, a Spider-Man from the 1930s who fights Nazis, Penny Parker, a Japanese-American girl who co-pilots a biomechanical suit with a radioactive spider that she has a telepathic link to, and of course, Peter Porker, aka Spider-Ham, who is a pig. After they all learn how new Miles is, they take turns kicking his ass to try to get him ready, but they decide he's not ready for this job. In anger, Miles leaves and goes to his Uncle Aaron's apartment, who's out of town, to leave him a message. However, the Prowler shows up at his apartment and Miles goes invisible to avoid him. Thinking no one's there, the Prowler takes off his mask and turns out Uncle Aaron is the Prowler. Miles then has to avoid the Prowler once more and ends up meeting all the Spider People back at Aunt May's house. Unfortunately, he was followed by all of Fisk's people, and they all get into one big ol' spider fight. This culminates with the Prowler chasing Miles onto the roof and almost choking him to death before Miles reveals his identity. Kingpin tells Prowler to kill him, but Prowler won't kill his nephew, so Kingpin shoots the Prowler. Miles takes the dying Aaron to an alleyway, who apologizes to Miles before, dying because Miles is Spider-Man, which means, legally, one of your family has to die. Miles then escapes right as his dad shows up and sees his dead brother, but he also saw Miles before he went invisible, thinking that Spider-Man, or at least one of the Spider-Men, Spider-People, Spider-whatever, killed Aaron. Miles goes back to his dorm room and destroys it before being comforted by the Spider-People. Turns out they were just there to say goodbye, as Peter has decided Miles is not ready for this job, as he cannot control his powers, and Peter's gonna be the one to activate and destroy the device and stay behind. He ties up Miles to a chair using the webbing and also webs his mouth, and all the Spider-People take off. While Miles is still tied up, his dad comes to his door to tell him about Aaron's death. His dad also expresses a want for them to have a better relationship and tells Miles that he believes in him and that Miles can be anything that he wants to be. And with this newfound motivation, Miles is finally able to control and activate his powers. Miles then goes back to Aunt May's house and back to the shed, where he takes one of the other Peter's old costumes and paints it black, fully testing out his new suit and his new powers after jumping off a building. Meanwhile, the other Spider People go to Fisk's tower, where the device is located and where Fisk is having a memorial for Spider-Man. They momentarily get sidetracked while Peter gets caught up with this universe's MJ before going down to the device. Fisk has the device activated again, but just before Peter can destroy it, of course, he's stopped by Octavius. The other Spider People get caught up fighting more of Fisk's goons, and Octavius is about to kill Peter before he's saved at the last minute by Miles. They continue to fight Fisk's people, including Scorpion, who destroys Penny and her spider's robot suit. Miles, Peter, and Gwen then prepare for a long battle with Octavius, which does not last long at all as she's hit by a passing train as all the dimensions are starting to merge. They get back up to the controller and Miles inserts the doohickey, which is a USB flash drive, and one by one sends everyone back to their own dimension. Right before he can send Peter back, however, they're confronted by Fisk, and Peter wants to stay to help Miles. Miles is like, no dude, you gotta go home, this is my fight, and reluctantly, Peter B. Parker goes back to his universe. Miles then does battle with Fisk on top of a train, while Jefferson Davis, who has entered the building, watches from afar. Fisk gets the upper hand in the fight and uses the same kill punch on Miles that he used on Peter Parker. It doesn't work on Miles though, and using his electric shock blast, which is called Venom Blast now, Miles blasts Kingpin into the control panel, destroying the device and unmerging all the dimensions. Miles then has a wholesome conversation with his dad on the phone and confronts him face to face as Spider-Man, hugging him but somehow not revealing his identity. He also ties up Kingpin real nice, who is somehow still alive. We then get a look at all the other Spider people back in their dimension, including Peter B. Parker, who has decided to reconnect with his MJ. Miles is now the new savior of his New York and the only Spider-Man in his New York, but maybe not for long, as somehow to end the film, Gwen has found a way to communicate with him. But there's also a post-credit scene, which is an incredible post-credit scene and maybe one of the best I've ever seen. In another dimension, Michael O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, has decided to go back to the beginning. Using a dimension teleporter, he travels into the universe of the 1967 Spider-Man animated series where he confronts that Spider-Man, and they recreate the Spider-Man pointing meme to end the film. So this was just a total geek movie, and I absolutely loved it. Like, if you've seen any sort of Spider-Man media, seriously, any sort of Spider-Man media, odds are there's something in here for you. It's absolutely incredible. You got old Spider-Man, you got new Spider-Man, you got multiple alternate dimension Spider-Man. You know, I mentioned those sequels earlier. Apparently in the sequels they're gonna bring in even more Spider people. Like, they just did such an incredible job with this. You could see the passion for it. It's a total geek movie. Somebody probably just woke up one day and is like, I just want to bring all the Spider-Man into one universe. Can I do that? I'm going to figure out a way to do that. And they really did do it. This movie is as good as advertised. It's the only animated Spider-Man film to date. Again, there'll be a couple sequels, but to date it's the only one. And with all due respect to all the live action films, this, honest to God, might be the best Spider-Man film. I may have to see it a couple more times to make that decision because I still love a lot of the Spider-Man films, like the third Tom Holland film and the second Tobey Maguire film, and not so much the Andrew Garfield films, but I don't really blame him for that, but it is more to writing, it's not his fault. But the point is, this is incredible, and it matches up with any film in the franchise, and may surpass any film in the franchise. So if you like Spider-Man at all, if you're even if you're just a casual fan of Spider-Man, casual fan, hardcore fan, I guarantee you will love this film. It's a total geek film. If you're a hardcore fan of Spider-Man, you're gonna really like it. But even if you're a casual fan, you can absolutely get into it. And it might help you get into more Spider-Man media, like maybe Spider-Man 2099 or Spider-Man Noir. Those are real things. But yeah, absolutely would recommend, absolutely loved it, and I can't wait to watch this film again in my spare time. I don't often do that with films, but I probably will with this. But that is going to do it for my review, or I guess Spider-Man look back at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Thank you, Blade, for using your points on this. The next review will be in just a couple days as we look at the 1978 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But that is it for me today. Thank you guys all for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like. If you didn't like it, don't. If you want to follow any of my social media links, they're all in the video description down below. Thank you to all my Patreon for supporting me and all my channels. I appreciate you guys. With all that being said though, my name is Noah Taft. This is my look back at Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, released in 2018, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.